tonight. Restaurant training on a tablet. The province is giving the industry a boost ahead of the busy tourism season. That story and
trial delays have pushed the case of Tony Humby into the spring of 2026. I'm Ryan Cook, and I'll have that story coming up.
Now with the self-referrals for breast cancer screening and colon cancer screenings right on the app, eligible residents will have another way to easily access preventative care and receive timely guidance and follow-up information.
Well, those looking for colon or breast cancer screenings no longer need a referral. How will that work? That story is still to come.
I had a short self-guided tour to the post office already, and everybody was extremely kind to me. What a nice place. I will move here.
Well, the first cruise ship of the season steams into a foggy St. John's. We'll get passengers' first impressions.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with news from the courts. The trial of a St. John's man accused of abusing and exploiting vulnerable teens has been pushed into 2026. Tony Humby's trial has been hampered by delays, leading the Crown to raise concerns today about how his rights to a speedy trial might come into play. Ryan Cook reports.
This Friday was supposed to be the last day of Tony Humby's trial. Instead, not a single witness has been called, as the defense has filed application after application, eating up all the time allotted for the trial. That led both sides to schedule new dates on Wednesday, taking the case into the spring of 2026. Crown Prosecutor Deidre Badcock expressed concerns about that, noting matters could proceed quicker if the defense lawyer was available, and saying Humby should have to sign a waiver, saying these delays won't be used in any calculations to have his case tossed later on down the road. But Humby's lawyer Mark Grushy said he won't be doing that. Why does this matter? Well, in 2016, the Supreme Court of Canada handed down the Jordan ruling, which sets firm timelines for when cases must be complete. That's 18 months at the provincial court level, with some limited exceptions. The judge in this case hasn't ruled on whether the delays that upended the 8-week trial were the fault of the defense or the Crown, but pushing the trial into 2026 could put Humby's case at risk of being tossed, a case that sees him facing 72 charges against a dozen complainants over a span of nearly 20 years. Grushy said it's premature to talk about any Jordan issues, and the judge agreed, saying they'll cross that bridge if a Jordan application is filed later on down the road. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the bodies of two missing snowmobilers have been located in Hopedale. The RCMP was notified about the missing men on Saturday. The pair was traveling together on a snowmobile. Police, as well as Hopedale Ground Search and Rescue, followed their tracks to the ocean, an area with poor ice conditions. The bodies of the 41 and 47-year-old men were found submerged in the water along with their snowmobile. The investigation is continuing. And in other news, a teenager in St. John's is in custody tonight after allegedly bringing a firearm to school in the east end of the city. Officers were called to the junior high school this morning following allegations the student had been in possession of an airsoft handgun the day before. Those air-powered weapons fire small plastic or resin pellets. A 15-year-old student faces a number of charges, including carrying a concealed weapon, possession of a weapon for the purpose of for a dangerous purpose, and careless use of a firearm. That teen will be held while awaiting an appearance in provincial court. Well, now to some health news. Health officials have announced a new change they hope will diagnose and treat more cancers earlier. Residents in the province can now refer themselves for colon and breast cancer screening with the My Health NL app. Here in Mark Quinn has more.
If you live in Newfoundland and Labrador, you should probably be thinking about cancer screening.
The rates of colon cancer in Newfoundland are astonishingly high. We probably have the highest rate in the world. In terms of comparing ourselves to the rest of Canada, the rates here are 50% higher. And the mortality rate is almost 100% higher, meaning people who get colon cancer in Newfoundland are almost twice as likely to die from it than they are compared to other areas in Canada.
The breast cancer rate is also high in this province. Today, the health minister announced a change that aims to find and treat more of those cancers earlier by making screening for both colon and breast cancer more accessible.
As of this morning, users can now self-refer for breast cancer and colon cancer screenings through the app.
Screenings like this used to require a referral from a doctor or a nurse practitioner. Now anyone who's signed up for the province's My Health NL app can book an appointment themselves without a referral. And the CEO of the province's health authority says there's more to come.
This is our first endeavour to try and make self-referral a reality for screening. And in our next phase, we'll be able to allow people who need continued screening to be able to plan their own times for getting their colonoscopy or their fit test or their follow-up mammogram. And bit by bit, we're going to be able to have an electronic system that's in the hand of the citizens of the province.
Parfrey says the first step for residents is to register online with the My Health NL app. He says that's something more than 130,000 people in this province have already done. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the provincial government wants to help restaurants and improve the dining experience for tourists. Today, a $200,000 investment was announced for new open access training for food service staff. Here now's Abby Cole explains how it works.
Between cruise ships and the Canada Games, restaurants are expecting to get busy this summer. But now training staff will be a little bit easier. This new website has easy-to-access videos and quizzes that can train new hires on the basics of the service industry. And thanks to $200,000 from the provincial government, it will be free for all restaurants in the province to use.
We're hoping that's going to increase the service standards across the province. If anything, it's going to save businesses time and money in terms of training staff, and hopefully this is something that perpetuates in the years to come.
And with an influx of tourism to the province this summer, Jerry Burns says it's important to set a high standard.
Customers will say to themselves, they have had incredible experiences and service experiences, but they've also had things where, it has been not necessarily up to standard or up to expectation. That's all infringing on the experience and does influence reputation.
Staff will be able to do their training on a phone or tablet, which could save restaurant owners time and money.
Restaurants do find there's international restaurant training programs that are thousands of dollars that I can sign on to, so we don't have to do that. And we also cut the number of training shifts. 2 shifts are just giving staff the knowledge about the steps of service, the expectations of time, the customer journey. We can eliminate some of those training shifts, which is a minimum of 3 hours. So if we eliminate 2 of those, that's 6 hours. For 50 to 100 employees, you can see the math, how much money that's going to save us.
Locke says his goal is to have staff do the program together in the restaurant or after hours.
But if they choose, they can do this on their own time, come back to work and say, I've got my certificate and I'm ready to start shifts.
The training program will be available for restaurant owners to access on June 10th. Abby Cole, CBC News, St. John's.
The new Muse Community Centre in St. John's finally has an opening date. The city plans to open the doors of the $33 million facility this September. The city now has ownership of the building, but says it's not ready to open yet because summer programming is already in place and the city will be busy with the Canada Games in August. The rec centre was supposed to open in 2023, but was plagued with delays.
There's been a number of hurdles along the way. I mean, we started this project in the middle of COVID, so we had numerous issues with supply chain and we had labor shortages to deal with. Steel was a big factor in the play in the construction of this building. So there were a number of delays along the way that eventually impacted the scheduled delivery. And then late last summer, we also ran into some issues with the chiller mechanical unit. So we've had to deal with those over the past 6 months. And really in going through that process and having learned some lessons from the Paul Reynolds Community Center project, I wasn't really comfortable taking over a facility until we were fully comfortable that it was functioning as it should be and it was fit for purpose for public use.
And we'll hear more about what the new Muse Community Center has to offer. Coming up, I'll speak with the city councillor for the area, Greg Noseworthy. In other news, a portion of the Outer Ring Road in St. John's will be closed on Sunday for an annual cleanup. The Department of Transportation says crews will be cleaning the area from Kenmount Road to the Logie Bay Road interchange. That stretch of highway will be closed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Cleanups of the same area in previous years have netted thousands of bags of trash.
Say hello to the Silver Dawn, the first cruise ship to dock in St. John's this season. The Silver Dawn is arriving from Nook, Greenland, on its way to stops in Halifax, Boston, and New York City. There are 660 passengers aboard. I'm not sure how many of them are going to want to get off the ship and poke around today. Did they tell them what the weather is like here in early May? Let's find out. This is your first time here?
Yeah, first time.
And what did you know about St. John's before today?
No any.
Did they tell you what the weather would be like today, ma'am?
No, I just know this morning. Yeah, the weather is really cold.
You have a very nice coat on. I think that's warm enough for St. John's in May.
Of course, yeah, enough warm.
Did they tell you what the weather would be like?
No. We were supposed to be warming up. We came from Greenland.
What was it like in Greenland compared to this?
Not as cold.
What is your name, sir?
My name is Rainer, which no English-speaking person can really pronounce.
And is this your first time in St. John's?
It's my first time in St. John's. I'm looking forward, and I had a short self-guided tour to the post office already, and everybody was extremely kind to me. What a nice place. I will move here.
What is your name, sir?
Yelchin.
And is this your first time in St. John's?
Yes, sir.
And what do you think so far?
So far, so good. I just arrived.
Does the city remind you of any place so far?
Well, this is very typical Northern European towns. It's very typical, very quiet, small, peaceful, as I said, and gray, of course, a bit cool.
I'm from Costa Rica.
And is this your first time in St. John's?
Actually, it is. I'm my first time in Canada.
Did they tell you what the weather is like this time of year?
Yes, they told me. I love cold weather, so that's okay.
What did they tell you about the weather before you arrived?
They didn't have to tell me. I check it because I usually look into Cruise Mapper and windy.com, so they didn't have to tell me. I knew in advance.
So it looks like you dress pretty good. You could pass for a local, I think.
Wow. Okay, I want to become one.
That is why we're talking to the retailers and the wholesalers to make sure that we do this properly and correctly.
Phasing out the province's sugar tax, how will it work and how soon? Peter Cowan has the timeline. That story still to come.
What's even crazier is just the other nominees in that category are just so good. So even being up against some amazing people was already an honor, but winning it is just a whole other playing field.
At just 17 years old, Summer Bennett is already making waves in the local music scene, winning the Dance Release of the Year award at last week's ECMAs.
The dance remix.
Well, the fun thing about being stuck in these patterns is we see a lot of similar weather day after day, and today is no different. But we do have this ridge of high pressure to the north that is clearing things out, I should say, across a good chunk of Labrador, and will continue to do so as it heads a little bit further south through the next couple of days. We're seeing some milder air associated with that, especially up across Labrador. Now, taking a look at what's going on today, temperature-wise, 11 degrees in Lab City. We do have some warmer air across the island. Again, southern areas, southwestern areas, seeing those milder temperatures as we typically do in that northerly flow. Twillingate +1 today, 4 in Bonavista. You take a look at the difference in temperatures from yesterday, really not a whole lot. Degree or two here and there, but that's about it. If we take a look at the weather headlines through the next week or so, we've got the drizzle and fog continuing, a rainy weekend, but mild and dry in Labrador. I'll break it all down for you coming up a little later.
It is time for the weather. Carl is out and about.
Yes, there are a lot of folks here in the Avalon Mall cinemas playing chess.
How do you do, sir?
Well, after a 2-year delay, this facility, the newly constructed Muse Community Center, finally has a new opening date. The $33 million rec center was supposed to open in 2023, but malfunctioning mechanical equipment caused the opening date to shift several times. Joining me now is Councillor Greg Noseworthy. Can we start by talking about the status of the building right now and when the city is planning to open the doors?
Yeah, so we've got possession of the building right now, and we're currently in the process going through final steps, getting staff ready, actually moving into the facility, getting everyone trained and ready for some of the great programs we have here, and we're opening up in September.
Okay, so can you talk about some of the problems that the building experienced over the past few years during its construction? Why the delay?
So we had a number of issues with supply chain. That's a reality that a lot of folks face, of course. It's not unique to this industry when it comes to construction of big facilities like this. It's something we've all felt since the pandemic, and it's been quite impactful. Since then, we did have one issue, mechanical issue. Essentially, there is an oil separator, and when we have that actually operating, it is what is responsible for heating and cooling the facility. You know, at the end of the day, this is no different than, say, a client buying a house. You know, you've got your foundation, you've got your structure of the building itself, the inside and outside portion, whether it's the siding, the new windows, and things happen. This is a reality of any kind of build, and this is a $33.5 million facility.
So $33.5 million facility. Did the delay and the mechanical problems add any additional costs to the building of the facility?
Thankfully, not at all, and this has been entirely funded through the federal government. Now, it's a federal government program which is administered by the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and that supports infrastructure, whether it's, say, wastewater, water facilities, or big buildings like this. So thankfully, not a dime more was spent for taxpayers.
Okay, so the city now has ownership of this building, and the mechanical issues are resolved. So why wait until September to open it? Why not open it sooner?
Well, as part of anything, we had to make sure we were planning accordingly. So we didn't know exactly we were going to get the building today to have it ready to go. So the reality is we had to plan to make sure that programs were going to be available for the youth, for adults, for seniors, and that's no small feat. It takes lots of time to get everything set up, whether it's booking facilities, having staff available, and actually advertising those types of things and registration. So as a result of that, we made the tough but correct decision to hold off at this stage to make sure that everything is set for a great opening for the fall.
Mm-hmm. And I know that there are users of the old Muse Center that are quite anxious for this to open. That building is in really, really rough shape. Can you talk about some of what this new facility will have to offer people?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a 25-meter lane pool, which is going to be fantastic. I've seen it. It's great. The water is warm, so there's no cold water. We've got a leisure pool, a fantastic gym. I mean, incredible, like NBA level gym. We've got multi-use courts. We've got everything. And the biggest thing I think with this facility is that it's accessible for everybody. It's inclusive. Whether you need mobility aids, if you need, if you're visually impaired, if you have any of those kind of things to consider, this facility is welcoming. It will work for you. It'll work for everybody. Additionally, on top of that, we're going to have the real program is going to be based here, the Boys and Girls Club. So we're making sure that everybody has an opportunity to play, and it really fits the community.
I know the city has had issues in the past with other rec centers, like the Paul Reynolds Center, some issues with that with the contractor, a very messy lawsuit that came along with that one as well. Were there any lessons learned from that experience that was applied to this experience, and thinking particularly of the ownership of this building and why the city waited to take ownership? What were those lessons learned?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's about making sure that we have the best facility that we are getting for the taxpayers, for the community, and we held off. That lesson learned was a hard one, but it was a good opportunity for us to grow and see when we're building these types of facilities where we can improve. And in this case, it was making sure that everything we were getting was correct, it was up to specifications, and it was the best facility possible for the community.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Councillor Greg Noseworthy, I'm sure a lot of people out there will be happy to hear that this will be opening up in a few months. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Carolyn. Pleasure.
The provincial government has gone to the Supreme Court.
2 and sunshine in Deer Lake today.
A spokesman for the owners says the statement will be issued within a week.
Glad you could join us for Here and Now.
This is CBC.
Actually, I heard a few people complaining about the weather today. It was so cold, misty out there.
Yeah, this is what happens when the rest of rest of Canada is seeing some milder temperatures. Northeasterly winds or northerly winds don't help. But I can tell you one thing, they are certainly helping the fire risk across the province. Let's take a look at the map right now. So this is today's map. Now, parts of the West Coast, you're seeing a moderate fire risk at this moment. But up across Labrador, you're looking at low, and the rest of really the island looking at that low risk there. And this will continue, I'd say, across the island, at least for the next little bit. We've actually got some more rain on the way as we head towards the weekend. But Labrador, this is going to change. I can guarantee you that. And it's because your temperatures over the next 5 days are going to be quite mild. You should typically, this is Lab West, but you should typically be sitting around 11 degrees as your daytime highs. But if you take a look at the temperatures, over the next 5 days, anywhere from 14 to 17 degrees will be your afternoon highs, and there will be plenty of sunshine. So dry conditions expected. Just keep that in mind. If you were out and enjoying the sunshine, that fire risk will likely be climbing as we head through the week. The reason for this nice weather will be this area of high pressure, already seeing some sunshine, at least through the afternoon. The clouds were clearing, and this will eventually sink further south as we head through tomorrow, clearing things out for parts of the island through the day, but we're still going to be dealing with some of this northerly flow. But we can already see that shifting to more northwesterly today. The temperatures, though, are still quite cool. Really anywhere from Nain all the way through to St. John's. Those highs are only sitting somewhere between 0 and about +4 or 5. But you get away from that, it's nice. The southern areas of the island, 12 degrees in Stephenville, 12 in Burgeo, and still 13 degrees in Port aux Basques at the moment. So if we take a look at the temperature change, definitely not moving a whole lot, just a degree or two here or there, but up about 7 degrees in Lab City. And like I said, the temperatures will continue to warm up. Taking a look at the current satellite and radar, we're seeing those clearing skies up across most of Labrador, southeastern portions, still in that onshore flow. You're still seeing some cloud cover and most of the island as well, although it is starting to thin out. And as that ridge sinks further south, it certainly will as we head towards the morning hours for at least parts of the West Coast anyway. Other than that, expect what you see is what you get. Patchy drizzle, fog patches possible all along the northeast coast of the island. Areas along the south may see some clearing skies through the overnight, but overall it's just going to be a fairly unsettled evening with the winds out of either the north or the northwest, somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Temperatures will hover around the 0 degree mark for the northern peninsula. Labrador, especially most of Labrador anyway, sitting in the minus single digits overnight under clear skies. And then we've got temperatures otherwise sitting somewhere between 1 and about 4 degrees for the island through the overnight tonight. Into tomorrow, we watch the clouds clear, starting for the northern peninsula by the time we get into the afternoon. Again, hanging on to some patchy drizzle and possible fog patches as well for those of us in onshore flow. And then by the time we get into late afternoon, early evening, things should start to clear out for the west coast and really the western half of the island as we head through the overnight as well. Temperature-wise, still staying cool, especially along the northeast coast. But across Labrador, generally quiet weather. Like I said, a start to a beautiful stretch of weather. But overall, our daytime highs between 1 and 5 degrees along the coast. Further inland, even though through parts of central, you're still looking at your temperatures between 5 and 7 degrees. And then for the west coast, that's where the warmest temperatures will be tomorrow. somewhere between 10 and 14 degrees is your daytime high. Still along the southern areas of the island, though, between 8 and 11. Hanging on to the chance of some drizzle still for the southern Avalon through the afternoon. And then for the coast of Labrador, still a little bit on the cool side. You'll still be sitting between 3 and 8 degrees as your daytime high. Some varying levels of cloud cover. Eventually we will see some clearing, but you may see a few showers still lingering through the day. 10 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay with plenty of sunshine. And like I said, that long range forecast has lots more nice weather, potentially even reaching the 20-degree mark for some of you across Labrador as we head through early next week. But there is a rainy weekend on tap across the island, and I'll have all of those details when I come back a little later in the show.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the tax on sugar-sweetened beverages should disappear within weeks. The finance minister said today the department is working to scrap the tax, but as Here and Now's Peter Cowan tells us, removing it officially will take much longer.
Every time you've picked up a liter of sugary pop, you paid an extra 20 cents, but not for long.
This is a matter of weeks before we will be able to eliminate the sugar-sweetened beverage tax.
Under the last Premier, Andrew Furey, the tax was introduced to push people to choose healthier options, like unsweetened juices, water, or diet drinks, which weren't taxed. But Premier John Hogan says people are struggling with the cost of living and it's time for the tax to go. But it can't go instantly. The finance minister says the province is talking to wholesalers and retailers to make sure it goes smoothly.
Making sure there's no inventory in the process so that when we, and it's only a matter of weeks, when we do eliminate the sugar-sweetened beverage tax, that everything is concluded. And therefore, that is why we're talking to the retailers and the wholesalers to make sure that we do this properly and correctly.
Creating the tax took legislation, but for now it can be removed through changes to regulations, which can be done by Cabinet, not the legislature. Removing the tax entirely does mean more legislative changes, but that won't happen this spring. That's a disappointment for the PC leader who's railed against the tax.
Bringing in the legislation and eliminating the sugar tax can be done next week. Those discussions can continue to happen, but it should be eliminated, not simply just done through regulations.
Tony Wakeham warns this leaves the door open. Government could easily bring the tax back after the next election. But did the tax work? Siobhan Cody says it's a start and behavior is changing.
The education piece is kind of critical, and I think that for the last couple of years we've really done a good job of getting that message out, and that's why you're seeing a change in the young, especially we're seeing it in the younger demographic, moving away from sugar-sweetened beverages.
If you want to help people, then you find methods of educating, as I said, not simply taxing them and taking money out of their pockets.
When it comes to paying for programs funded through the short-lived tax, like school lunches and supplies for diabetics, the province expects departments to tighten belts to find the money elsewhere rather than driving up the deficit further. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Candidates in the Terra Nova, the Peninsula's recount, are going to have to keep waiting for results. Elections Canada says they aren't expected until Friday afternoon. After the election, Liberal Anthony Germain beat Conservative Jonathan Rowe by 12 votes, enough to trigger an automatic recount. More than 1,000 ballots are in dispute, and the judge is taking time to consider how to count those ballots. Elections Canada says the ballots are being stored securely and locked up during breaks and overnight. Once the judge makes a decision, he will notify Elections Canada, which will publish the results. Judge Handrigan says he will not provide a written or oral decision. While some are questioning how long the process is taking, this political scientist says there's a lot of strategy at play.
You know, you can imagine a situation where you say, well, we don't want that ballot to count, and that's because it's for the other side. But if you do that and you make that argument, and then there are other ballots with a very similar error and they're for your side, you don't want to make that first argument. And beyond that, we just don't know the scope of the types of errors they're dealing with. Are they all very similar? Are they all very different? I fully appreciate that if time needs to be taken, and hopefully the goal here by the judge at least is to make sure that everybody who voted and where you can tell what their intention was, that we're counting those ballots. That's what we're trying to make sure happens, right? I can appreciate that could be a very time-consuming process, especially as you get into sort of the legal arguments around each type of error that might have been made.
Local trade workers were recently honored with an exhibit at the Rotary Arts Centre in Corner Brook. Pop Your Collar is an exhibit from a Grenfell Arts student named Ernest Boughton, who paired photography with artifacts to illustrate workers' stories.
Hi, my name is Ernest Boughton. I'm from Accra, Ghana, and I am a MFA Visual Arts student at the Grenfell campus, Memorial University. And this is my exhibition, Pop Your Collar, which is a celebration of trade workers in Corner Brook. So this work expands from intimate portraiture of workers at their domestic spaces and their workspaces. Before coming to Corner Brook, I did a similar project back home where I looked at minority work groups who were championing the economy of Ghana. So when I came in, I was like, I could do a similar project over here, but I wanted to do the trades because of its prominence in Corner Brook. It's a global topic. Whether you're in Africa or whether you're in North America, you still find people working in industries, and usually we don't have a lot of highlights or spotlight put on them. So this is my way of contributing to the discourse of looking into trade workers or workers in general. For me, I think I have a background in because my dad used to be a carpenter back home. So I have a bit of a personal connection to it. Then after school, I tried to do projects around workers. So it stems from my parental upbringing and my research into tradespeople. I love it here. Everybody is so welcome and everybody is eager to be part of the project. And I've made some good friends throughout the journey of making this project. So I think I love the environment and the energy Corner Brook brings. So I think that's why I'm trying to highlight and put the name of the industries and the various peoples in here on the spotlight.
We're going to Halifax now, where the investigation continues into the disappearance of Lily and Jack Sullivan. The two children have been missing since May 2nd, and despite an extensive search, no trace of them has been found. The CBC's Ali Thompson has more on why a former RNC dog handler says these circumstances are strange.
After nearly 3 weeks and 8 full days of scouring Lansdowne Station, there's still no sign of Lily and Jack Sullivan. Glenn Brown is having a hard time wrapping his head around that. The retired RCMP dog handler of 26 years says it's baffling to him the children are still missing after such wide-scale searches that included upwards of 160 search and rescue personnel, dogs, helicopters, and drones.
I find it hard to believe that a 6 and 4-year-old would just disappear like that. I guarantee you, if I was still working today, that'd be the thing you'd be racing around your mind all the time. Like, where would they have gone? Like, we have done everything. I think the last thing I read, they searched a square kilometer area, 5 kilometers. That's a big area. And that's meticulously searched.
The children were reported missing from a home on Gairloch Road on May 2nd, sparking a 6-day search that was eventually scaled back. Then, over the weekend, 115 search and rescue crew members were called back. RCMP have not said what prompted them to return, but Brown says it's not unusual to restart a search. He says there are a number of reasons police may call crews back, including tips or new evidence. But if that was the case, that information likely was not known by the search crews or even police officers on the ground.
They may tell them, we got a tip, and we just want you to go in that area and search and see if you find anything. They're not going to tell you exactly what was in the tip. It's not going to do it. They don't even tell their own people that, unless you are in the know, right? Unless it's like you're in that investigative group.
RCMP's major crime unit has been involved since the day after the children disappeared. They say every missing persons investigation is considered suspicious until they have reason to believe otherwise. An RCMP spokesperson would not answer specific questions about this latest search, but says officials will be reviewing the information collected and determining next steps. Ali Thompson, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, Canada Post has rejected an offer from the Postal Workers Union to delay a potential strike by 2 weeks. The union had asked for the pause to consider the latest proposals from the corporation. It comes just days after Canada Post said it received a strike notice. Tens of thousands of postal workers could hit the picket lines Friday. It would be the second strike in less than 6 months. Weekend work remains the sticking point in negotiations. Canada Post wants to hire part-time staff for Saturdays and Sundays to address rising parcel demand. The union representing postal workers is proposing a shift in schedules for full-time employees to include some weekend work. Indigenous leaders in Canada are calling on Pope Leo to return thousands of sacred artifacts. Items such as pipes, medicine bundles, and ceremonial regalia currently housed in the Vatican Museum. They were taken from communities during the residential school era. Alexander Silberman reports.
Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak can only view these pieces of Indigenous history as photos. A rare Western Arctic kayak, Cree embroidered gloves, all among the vast collection stored behind the Vatican's walls.
They need to return it. I think that's a big signal from the church if they do.
The national chief of the Assembly of First Nations is renewing the fight to return these objects to Canada, calling on newly elected Pope Leo to commit to the repatriation of the artifacts.
I think this would be huge, monumental, a big piece of righting the wrongs of the past.
In 2022, a delegation of Indigenous leaders traveled to the Vatican to meet with Pope Francis. Church officials also gave them a private tour of some of the artifacts. At the time, Francis promised Indigenous items would be returned to their home communities.
When you bring back these objects, it will awaken people.
This Cree museum curator says colonization removed identity and repatriation helps restore lost culture.
We need that more in these days because our languages and our cultures, they're very much threatened.
Catholic missionaries sent thousands of artifacts to Rome in the early 1900s. It's unclear how many are from Canada and how they came to be in the church's possession. The Vatican says they were gifts, but Indigenous leaders refute that narrative.
That's the call out right now is work with First Nations, work with the residential school survivors to give those back to the rightful owners.
Indigenous leaders say they're optimistic newly elected Pope Leo will uphold the promise of his predecessor, but plan to continue pressing for their precious cultural belongings to be returned home. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
Heavy rain in southeastern Australia has triggered flash flooding and cut off entire towns on Wednesday. Authorities have issued snap evacuation orders. Emergency services say crews are giving top priority to rescuing vulnerable people and those who cannot leave their homes. Rivers are above danger levels and heavy rain is expected to continue into the coming days. Speaking of weather, Ashley will be back with your long-range forecast coming up. 17-year-old Summer Bennett has had quite a month. The musician took home the award for Dance Release of the Year at last week's East Coast Music Awards. That was for a remixed version of her original track, Just a Phase, which she recorded with Grammy Award-winning producer Greg Wells. The CBC's Todd O'Brien spoke with Summer Bennett about the big win.
I have nothing prepared. Dance music and pop music was kind of like a discovery for me because, of course, here it's very traditional, and even being nominated is crazy, so thank you guys.
Tell me about the ECMA win.
I was completely blown away and shocked by that one. I never thought I already actually won two, because I won the Paradise Town Performer of the Year just a few days before the International Songwriting Competition. So it was kind of out of my mind winning an ECMA, and it was always a dream. I mean, you know, watching the ECMAs growing up, and my dad always watched the ECMAs growing up, and now there's one in our house. It's completely mind-blowing, and what's even crazier is just the other nominees in that category are just so good. So even being up against some amazing people was already an honor, but winning it is just a whole other playing field. You're just a phase that I'm going through, and in just 1 week I'll be over you. I am poison 'cause I am an addict. The beat of my madness, I'm like, oh.
The dance remix version of Just a Phase, which won the ECMA, how's that different from the original song?
Yeah, so we got Dave Audet, which is a Grammy Award-winning remixer, to remix the original Just a Phase, which is done by Greg Wells. So something about Silly Cove Records is half of the money we make off of any of the songs go to charity. And so Dave Audet did it for charity. You know, he got no money out of it, and so just in the kindness of his heart, he took my song, who would have known, and he made something amazing out of it. And
they're both great versions.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of my favorite songs now. He did such a great job. It's just a phase that I'm going through. I'm young, so that's what I'm gonna do. I am toxic 'cause I am
17 years old. She's from Paradise.
Incredible.
Yeah, sounds kind of like, we were saying, kind of like Kylie Minogue, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, that little vibe. I like that.
Paradise, very talented. Okay, so let's talk about the long-range forecast. We've been in this weather pattern now for a few days. How long is it going to continue?
Yeah, the good thing is it isn't lasting for weeks, which is nice this time around. We do have some warmer temperatures on the horizon as well, which will be nice. Let's take a look at what's going on as we head towards the weekend. So by the time we get into Friday, that ridge of high pressure is going to sink a little bit further south, and things should clear out, which will be the first time for most of us this week, at least across the island. But things will start to switch. Now, southern areas of the island will see a little bit more cloud cover through at least the afternoon hours, and then as we head towards the evening, our next weather maker moves in, and this one is going to bring the clouds with it, along with some periods of rain by the time we get into Friday evening, particularly for the southwestern corner of the island. Across Labrador, things will get a bit more unsettled. You're also looking at the chance of a few showers, potentially here and there, but most of you should stay dry. Again, daytime highs will be a little on the cool side for those of you for the north coast. Otherwise, in the teens, even upper teens through parts of central Labrador. And then same thing across the island. It is going to be quite mild for your Friday, around 17 degrees for Corner Brook, 16 in Grand Falls, Windsor. And even as you head towards Gander, temperatures will be in the teens, but the rain will move in. And some of these showers will be fairly heavy at times as well through the day. Through the evening, I should say, and overnight. But southern areas of the island will see the cooler temperatures in onshore flow between 7 and 8 degrees. And we should stay around 8 degrees as well across the Avalon with some increasing cloud through the day, but there should be some sunshine. So if you're out looking for the icebergs, it looks like a great day for that. And as we head into Saturday, it will be on the rainy side, certainly for the Avalon through the day. particularly in the morning. We may see a little bit of a break into the afternoon, but most of us will be under cloudy skies, along with that chance of showers pretty much continuing through the evening hours. Labrador, just a little bit of cloud cover heading a little bit further north, but again, another quiet weather day with temperatures somewhere between 8 to 15 degrees, or 8 to 14 degrees rather. And then across the island, double digits for central, west coast, maybe even parts of the southern areas of the island, but overall daytime highs will sit in the single digits through the day on Saturday. Long range forecast, by the time we get into Sunday, we should see double digits for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, although we may see some showers to start the day. The sun should come out in the afternoon. Monday dropping down back to around 6 degrees and also a little bit unsettled. And then for central, not quite as warm, but between 8 to 11 degrees as we get into the beginning of next week, and a little bit more showery weather for western Newfoundland for the beginning of next week as well. Labrador, a lovely, beautiful forecast in your 5-day, anywhere from the mid to upper teens, and overnight lows still hanging out though in the 1 to 3 degree range. Our weather photo of the day. There have been some stunning sunsets, and Heart's Content is no different. This one was taken on Sunday night. Dean shared this great shot with us. He emailed his weather photo to nlphotos@cbc.ca, and that's where you should send yours if you have any beautiful photos of anything.
Yes, gorgeous. Love that, Dean. The colors are beautiful. What fantastic weather coming for Labrador. My goodness, just sun icons right across the board.
Right across the board.
Yeah, very nice.
Nice pattern.
All right, well, that's it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.